So, hi everybody. I'm going to jump over to the chat here so I can take a look at what you all saying. But um, today is going to be pretty fun because the if you didn't join the two previous streams, I was definitely trying to get over some of the some of the basics of like what I do to retain character continuity in my comics. My goal here is to kind of show different ways that you can tell dynamic stories within Midjourney, especially with the new pan and zoom features. But I do want to kind of go over at least the initial kind of thing that kind of gets brought up here often, which is the slash prefer. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write slash prefer, and this will let us be able to set an option. And what you do is you write a name for your character inside of here. For me, it's Victor, but you can write whatever you like in here. And you can notice that when I wrote Victor, I actually have four different versions of Victor right now. I have Victor face front, like just his full body. I have the back of Victor, so whenever I'm doing like I'm talking to somebody, right, and I need to have the back of him, I have this. It's a couple URLs are missing from the main one to make that. Victor Cowboy is just the character sheet cut in half, and I'll show you what the character sheets look like here in a minute for those that didn't join last stream. And then also Victor's 70s. I am currently exploring Stanley Kubrick films and trying to ham fist my character inside of his own movies. So that's pretty fun. So if I do Victor's 70s here, it'll reference a more realistic version. But that's how I am able to do this, where we can just hit image here. All right, Victor, and this is just going to be a blend. We're not going to do any sort of image injection. We're just doing URLs. So Victor, and then I don't know, like we can just do dancing and just VG5 to make it anime there. And essentially, what you can see that immediately insert a bunch of URLs, and all of these URLs are different turnarounds. So while that's running here, I'll hop on over here and show you what that looks like. So the character turnarounds we end up building look like this, where you have all these different poses that match the action of what story you're trying to tell, or what the character is going to be doing in the story. And then you have the base turnarounds, which is the tops here. Basically, a turnaround being the face front, profile, and backside of the character. So yeah, I'm gonna just check the chat here real quick. Nice. I'm going to stretch my body all the way over here to take a look. Um, how can I put dual screens like Victor? Okay, so I have this set up in Streamlabs so I can see both the chat and the VC Create, right? And what that means is that like in order to do this, you're gonna have to swap between VC Text and VC Create in the Discord here on Midjourney. But overall, the key thing to kind of keep in mind with what I'm doing here is that as we go through this stuff, I want you all to be able to like mess around with it. So I'm going to be posting to VC Create, so you guys can click the buttons and do all that kind of thing. Let's see what else here. So excited for this one. Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited too. I think there's going to be some really cool stuff that we're going to be able to accomplish here today. Um, and yeah, and in terms of the slash prefer, I was actually like told by a handful of power users like, oh, you gotta get in on this. You gotta start messing with this so you stop copying pasting URLs all the time. So there you go. It's an awesome feature. But I'll go ahead and bring up the first result here, which I'm not surprised is kind of gendered all over the place, right? My character is essentially he'll stretch between anime and realism, but in general he just has the kind of sunken eyes and strong contrasting dark use of a lot of black ink in my traditional works, so this kind of reflects in that. My turnarounds are half derivative or half generated and half original sketches. So by combining the two, I'm able to kind of explore this space very quickly. But what we're gonna do is I'm going to use the slash prefer and remix mode, and I have remix mode on by default, and we'll get into kind of some of the uh, maybe a few of the things that were in the last streams when needed. So if you hit slash settings, you're actually going to see remix mode here, right here. And that's what needs to be on in order to retain character continuity through my workflow. There's probably plenty of other ways, especially if you just use like specific prompts. Like I used in my tutorial, I used Kermit the Frog as the Undertaker, and that was a very reliable prompt. It gave me almost always this reliable green frog looking character in a death's robe, and the colors were mostly continuous. So sometimes you'll just find a solid prompt and be able to use that. But I use a lot of what's called image injection, which is where we take a word only prompt. So let's do like I'm actually going to start with comic panels here and put in a gender because we want it to be really ambiguous, but we don't want to happen what happened up there where it's a bunch of like randomly effeminate or overly masculine. So I'm just going to put him. And one of my favorite prompts, and I'm going to show you guys here this one. This is one that I used a lot in my first comic because I essentially turned an online rant into an anime. Is surging with power. This one's particularly fun, but we're going to do AR23, and then I'll turn on Niji to make this easy. And I say easy because Niji's data set is anime, right? But it's mostly drawn, which means that if I need to like do like Tex Avery or Western like minimalism or anything like that, it's much easier to get usable results out of Niji for that. Because I'm asking for comic panels at the start of this, we are actually going to immediately see a like the most intense moment of like a battle or something, right? All right. So you can see that as the results we immediately got like some super intense stuff that is kind of continuous within itself, right? Like these three character like these three panels all have the red glowing eyes. There's a lot of red glowing eyes you'll find with this prompt, but you just get some like incredible compositions out of this, incredible energy that comes out of that. It's surging with power, right? But say I wanted my character doing a similar pose or composition, then the only thing I really need to do is I need to inject the character into there, and we can see what we get out of that. And then let's just do, because the first one's probably going to give us the best result, simply because it has like the most face front of the character, or just in general, it looks has the most body to it. A lot of these close-ups are going to be all sorts of crazy if I try to do this. But with Ancient's permission, I'm happy to also inject him into this too, and we can have ourselves a little bit of fun here. But
You're more than welcome to.
Okay, cool. So essentially here, what we're seeing is, this intense character. Now, what I'm about to do, with very subtle, is most likely going to make it look worse, but it'll bring the artwork closer to my character designs. But if I do very strong, suddenly we get the best of both worlds, where the style is continuous. Our intention is continuous because we've said what we wanted it to be with the text, but the artwork will look way closer to the original here. So, I'll start with Victor here, and then we will move on to uh, yeah, we'll move on to Ancient here, because I need to prompt Cat Boys in order to make Ancient's character work. You can get away with it sometimes if you don't, but the idea here is we're exploiting silhouettes. Because if I do variation subtle on this, it'll keep the composition much closer. So I'll just do that as an example here. But you'll notice that the quality is going to drop pretty significantly. With variation strong, however, suddenly my character is surging with power and has the similar glowing eyes and other elements that were in there. But more importantly, at least what's more useful for me, is the fact that the background's all white. It lets me put whatever background I want for this because it's referencing the character sheet. So this is another benefit of having white, like a white box around your character, is that you get like these perfect plates for compositing, which is amazing when you talk about doing this stuff. With the variation subtle, however, you may not get very good looking stuff, but man, occasionally you'll find that one really good panel that you can use, right? And I could potentially use this one. I could use this one. Like it has some level of continuity to my character, but then you'll have results that are just chaos and nonsensical, right? But this is how you choose between the layouts. If you're just like really, really happy with the layout that you got um, from the comic, right? You can just hit you can just like, crop this out and save it how you want. But I prefer using variation strong for this because it lets me be able to get much more continuity of the character. Um, and then what we can do is essentially build this comic out with a lot more direction if we at least start off with the variation subtle ones here. And I'll be relying on Kinky and Ancient to kind of like chime in if there's any like relevant questions and stuff like that, because I get very easily, I have tunnel vision. I'm like a horse, like I have blinders on, so it can be kind of hard for me to see the text chat while I'm doing this stuff. But what I'm gonna do though is I'm going to hop back over to here, and we are going to try. Let's do uh, let's do a Pokemon battle, and then add Catboy just to kind of evoke something closer to what Ancient's character looks like, and I'll show what Ancient's looks like here in a moment, and then we'll just do Niji5 and see if we get something that the problem with this prompt is that Pokemon particularly. It might create some real funny looking cat like Pokemon. It might do a lot of merging between concepts here. And I didn't set an aspect ratio, but we might be able to get away without doing that. The main benefit of doing aspect ratio is really to just kind of force a certain framing or photo element to it. But we got some fun stuff out of this. So let me open this up in the tablet here, and boop boop. All right. So yeah, we definitely got some cat ears on the kid holding what could be argued as a Pokeball and a cat like there. We got a lot of like fun kind of compositions here. And if you really like the results you get, you can actually just turn these into full comics. So before we get into a bunch of image injection, which is going to kind of muddle the results a little bit here, let's just expand one of these to give us an idea of what sort of stuff we can get out of it. Okay. Look at that, like that odd like Pikachu here. It's so fun. But I'm gonna do this one, the bottom right, just because I think it's gonna give us some fun results, and it's got already some speech bubbles and stuff in it. Gotta prompt them all. Yeah, I gotta prompt them all. That's fun. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna upres these, and the thing is that you can hit custom zoom here, right? And what's amazing about this is that I can switch this from zoom 2 to zoom 1, which means it's not going to zoom at all. Actually, it's just going to change the aspect ratio. But I'm going to change the aspect ratio from 1 to 1, which is square, like how this one is, to to 1 3, which means that it's going to be 3 times as tall as it is wide. Okay? So now I'll hit submit. And what's going to happen is that based off of this image here, it's going to try to finish the comic for us. Effectively constantly referencing on this one image and probably the the prompt that we used, and it'll try to create an like not a narrative, like we're not actually storytelling. We're simply trying to explore the different potentials of this workflow, and then if we find something that inspires a story, that's great. But if you're intending to start with a script, you'll have a lot more intention and direction behind this, which means you're just going to add probably a bunch more words to the prompt here. But as that is finishing up here, we can kind of see the results. I'll probably for Ancient not do a Pokemon just because it's going to We're just gonna have a lot of cats everywhere. I promise. That's probably what's gonna happen. So this still also takes a little bit of time, even with turbo mode and whatnot. I think actually I'm on fast, but either way, but I want to show you guys the results that we're gonna get out of this here. So now let's take a look at this. Okay, so I'm gonna move Victor out of the way here. So take a look. What we're seeing is now we have the character interacting, holding, and look, he's even got a tail. But if we scroll down, look at this. Like the character, we have like continuity of at least the characters in the form to where we can go into Photoshop or really any other image editor, and suddenly we have these pretty dynamic sort of expressions to each of the characters that are featured. We're going to exploit the crap out of this here in a minute, I promise, especially when we have multiple people in the prompts with panning. So very cool to see this, right? We could just keep going. Like if I upres any of these here, we could easily just pan down to create more and more comics. So this is kind of like the very basic way to do this kind of stuff. But the at least when it comes to referencing, like just getting referential material, just something to inspire, maybe even a hand drawn thing, then this is a great way to explore, different characters and especially different expressions of an existing character. I do actually stream on Twitch as well, which is kind of relevant right now because of the Pokemon thing. But if I jump over here and grab my pokes here, I actually have been prompting Pokemon, particularly Pokemon fusions. I've been playing a lot of Infinite Fusion on Twitch. I took a little bit of a break recently, but I'm gonna get back to it. And all these little buggers right here are the result of merging two different Pokemon from the game with the sprite art itself. So they're kind of like inspired by real art, like real artist sprite work, which is super cool. Um, and Yeah, that's like a hoot hoot and a Zubat. Like, yeah, there's just a lot of fun stuff that comes out of that. It's still very much like in the works and stuff in terms of me doing any sort of regular uploads and stuff. But we're gonna. Oh, hey, thank you for following me on Twitch too. I appreciate that. I muted all the times that it interrupts me with the word kitty. Just because of the sheer number of times that happened the first time. If you want to have the character looking around at specific people, it's essentially you can literally say look at him or look at them or looking at her or whatever you want to say in there. But I will say that I tend to just kind of get assets that look kind of in the general direction, and then I clean the eye line with Photoshop or whatever. We're gonna just immediately get into um, something here. So let's do last time, at least what I did for the second stream, because the video got corrupted, I prompted 2/3 of a 3-hour video. um it was not, I was like, oh, this will be easy, I'll just prompt things and just change a couple hands. Nope. And then I sunk freaking like 4 or 5 hours into just into just cleaning that up. So enjoy, I guess. And I'm just gonna do comic panels of Catboy Catboy Summer. Why not? Let's just do that. Let's see what comes up there. It's was it Tom Hanks's son that coined the whole white boy summer term? I don't know who did. Let me pull this one up here and we can kind of pick from this selection here. So I'll go to tablet only. And these are really cute already. But the thing is that you'll notice, and I'll actually bring up Ancient's character design here really quick, just so that I can grab these URLs here. The 3 URLs that he is based off of are, and you can see that it's generating it already. But if I pop back over to the tablet here, Ancient's character design that he submitted is pretty fun. It has a lot of like uh, a lot of the Jinko jeans sort of straps and stuff. I appreciate that throwback. We were talking about how a lot of us are mall or former mall dwellers, mall rats and stuff. So seeing all the kind of early 2000s, mid 2000s Jinko jean design stuff is real fun. But his turnaround, this is what it is. It's just three different URLs, right? And they show different poses and whatnot. And essentially, what we're asking Remix Mode to do is to try to bring the images back to these turnarounds, to try to bring certain elements in there. And if you do a blend, it's going to be like a kind of like a median or a 50-50 there. But you'll notice that in the results that we got, there is no dark hoodie on any of these characters. It doesn't actually match the character design at all because we haven't used any sort of descriptors of Ancient's character here. So and after we go through the demo part about this, we'll actually get into trying to craft our own story, particularly within the genre that you all picked from the last stream, which was avant-garde fantasy. I'm excited to do that here today. But what we can do now is come up to the prompt here, and I'll swap back over to here. So you can see the results that we got from that. Because it's a blend, it gets us kind of close, but it's not perfect. And we won't ever really get true perfect. I say the word perfect a little too liberally, but the what we can do though is we'll prompt the same thing we had before. So comic panels, Catboy Summer, but I'm gonna do it like he's wearing a dark hoodie on the beach. Like whenever whenever I went to Disney World, right? I would always be surprised by the number of people who are like from Florida that wear like thick hoodies while in line and during summer in Disney, right? And it might be kind of funny to do like such a dark looking character in a bright sunny beach sort of environment. So let's just do that. Dark hoodie. A lot of people like to go really really hard with their prompts. Like they'll write very long, almost like monologues and stuff. And I'm under the idea of working simple and then working up, trying to figure out what sort of stuff I can accomplish with just very simple prompts. And that may not be the best way to do it sometimes, but it's definitely the way I do it. So I'm going to open these up here and we're going to take a look here. And it's kind of funny because the summer is largely lost, but we got it in the third one. Tosei go ve wand tau in of. I love the nonsense that it writes inside of this stuff here. But what we're looking for here is how closely does it match the character art? And like I'm just going to show you guys again here. There is a hoodie, but there's also like a beanie top to it, which is a little confusing. I've learned that it gets kind of confused by the fact that there's two of them. But having this kind of like cat hat and the beanie, I mean, in the hoodie, kind of gives us a little bit of direction to aim for here. So I think probably the second one's probably going to be the best result. But in terms of our intention, it's going to be the third because I wanted a dark hoodie character standing on the beach. Okay. So let's just do both. Let's just do both. We have a choice here. I can either inject right now, Ancient's character art, or I can do it later after we've gotten a bunch of the panels. And the reason why the latter tends to be the least like beneficial is because the larger the image is, the more our injections are going to take away these panels. So we're actually going to start off with an injection here. First, I'll do a subtle just to see if we can get by. Um, the reason I tend to like to do both is because I want to get an idea of what my range is here. Do I have to completely give up my layouts that I got here in order to remain continuous, or do I risk it with going strong and seeing what sort of layouts I can make myself? So, and I say risk it because sometimes you just don't get the stuff you're looking for. And while these are prompting here, I do also want to note that I'm working in Niji now because I'm injecting an anime character. We'll do Victor 70s here to show you that this is not limited to Niji. If for all the folks that are potentially watching this that do not have any interest in anime whatsoever, I'm doing this because the results are really much easier for especially comic panels. And we can see that with variation subtle, the colors did not change. We definitely got some moody boy in a cat hoodie, and the compositions are almost always the same, but sometimes certain things become kind of lost. The other subtle, you can see it starts to fall apart. It starts to see like it just starts to not understand uh really what we're intending to do here. It's just you get close, you get sometimes something that you may be usable, but again, variation subtle when it comes to injecting into multi panels like this will very often break most of the panels. That isn't to say that we can't make use of this stuff. It's just not it's going to take a lot of manual work. So now we're going to switch over to variation strong. And with variation strong, suddenly this looks a whole lot more like Ancient's character. We did lose the straps that hang down, but we got these really interesting compositions, these really interesting paneling. But you'll notice that they look almost exactly like the turnarounds. So if I pop back over here real quick, yeah, they look very similar to this because that's what variation strong is going to do. It's going to bring it much closer back to the whatever we're injecting in there. This is why your actions need to match the what you're intending to do. And this is the other variation strong. Um, and you can notice that based on the turnarounds, they're always kind of looking in somewhat of a direction here. We can take advantage of that. We can actually pan to create the additional panels or to inject another character. So let's go ahead and do that. Hi everyone. Hi Victor. Hey, Boken. Yeah. Hey, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming.
Been saving the chats all in a little row, or the questions if you have them, if you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
them.
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and take those, and that will let me
Right.
kind of prep it things through here.
To spreadsheet some things so that I have you all organized when we do this on Fridays. Mahi has a troubleshooting question for later. And he says, I found that when injecting my turnarounds, I frequently have the crowds all turn into my OC.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty common.
Is this something that pops up occasionally, or is it worth isolating the single character images and using those URLs instead?
Yeah, yeah. So this is always a bit tricky because the more people that are in the frame, every time you inject, it's going to be like, oh, there's a face there. I'm going to make it look more like the face. Like it essentially will, um, constantly try to put your character all over the place. And my recommendation is to actually rely on doing a more layered approach if you really want control over it, right? So like, yes, you got the output, but the crowd's wrong. Then you would marquee the crowd in Photoshop or something, and then replace it with a different prompt. Something that it more evokes a randomized crowd. You can also, and this is a pretty neat trick for that, you can also start a separate chain of just the non-injected versions. So, like, for example, because you're going to get the same similar compositions, right? So, like, if you have a crowd shot and you put your character in it, expand both the one without your character in it and the one with your character, so that you effectively use the background characters that are randomized from Midjourney in some parts of the frame, and then use the images you've made, or that you've injected in order for the rest of
Next question
it.
was from, or it was more of a comment. Imagine Boo said, "Oh, I need a prefer tutorial too." LOL, epic session. He's just happy that you're doing a prefer tutorial. And then there was a girl in the chat. I can't remember her name, but she said, "Ooh, what was the prompt for that? I love the style. It was the thing right after you had Victor in a tutu,
Oh,
and it kind of looked more realistic."
all right. So this is actually my character sheet for 70s Victor. You can see that there's a lot more realism. He is defined within the lighting that is most common within Stanley Kubrick films, especially down here. That's instantly, 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, very fun to kind of see different versions of him. Boop boop. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to try my best anyway to try to get Victor talking to Ancient here. And the best way that we can, at least that I've found to do it, is to do a single pan with the word emptiness written in it. And the reason why is because if the characters are too close to each other, they start to merge. I notice Victor will start to get like cat ears and a tail and stuff like that if he's too close to Ancient. The radioactive cat boy effect, I guess. But I think I'm going to select this third one here, and we'll just kind of expand off of that one there. So we got this result here. And now I'm going to pan over to the right here, and I'm just going to, you can either do emptiness or comic panels or blank or whatever.
It's like to have, some sort of glitch on the Friday night session.
I'm very familiar with glitches and corruptions now. But yeah, it is something that I'm excited to kind of show you guys this method like on like on turbo, because it's gonna essentially we if I run and then everyone hits variation on the same or hits custom zoom on the same image, we can essentially just get an entire graphic novel in about 3 seconds. Um, so we'll probably mess around with that. But let me go ahead and expand this here. Yeah, ideally what I'm trying to look for here is some kind of break in this blackness, but not have ancient show up there. So I'm gonna do the bottom left one because it's just this kind of like emptiness that's here. Just to get us started here. This you'll notice that what I probably will not use what we end up first generating, and it's just more like the base of it. So I'm gonna upres that, and now I'm gonna pan again, and I'm just gonna put Victor in there. But obviously, I'm kind of shooting at the hip here with this. We can actually keep going with these panels here. So if because of the result that we got, let's do this one here. I'm gonna also re-roll this one to see if we can get someone that doesn't have all the black panels on it. And if I change the aspect ratio, we would probably get even better results. So here, so if I just kind of come into here and I'm going to try to, instead of relying on the URLs here, we'll see what kind of comes up here. But I want to now apply an aspect ratio to kind of encourage that I want a, what looks like a bit like a graphic novel. So like 2:3 here. And okay, all right. So we have our first kind of like dual character merger, and the positions are going to be a little weird, but I want to. This is pretty exciting to see for folks that have been dying to have multiple characters inside of their their generated stuff. You can see here that because I panned over and didn't include ancient in the pan that's next to it, Victor is unaltered by the by ancient being nearby here. What this means, however, is that let's just take, like I'm not really looking at him in any of these, which is a little unfortunate, but I can keep re-rolling to kind of change that result. What I can do though is I'll take the first one just because it's kind of at least the face is in the correct direction. I'll upres that. Okay, I have that one upresed, and then we'll do a custom zoom. And again, switch the aspect ratio from 1:1 to 1:3 and do a zoom of 1 to try to get it to not zoom out at all. And what I've noticed is kind of like the result of this, and I'll also hit zoom so we can see what that looks like. What I've seen is that it mostly respects the two different characters up into a point. You can like pan 2 or 3 times, and then suddenly, Victor will have a tail again or whatever it ends up being. But at least for the results that I get out of this sort of like combination of zooms and pans, and then telling it, oh, okay, these are two separate characters. I now know that these are two separate characters. Let's try to see how the environment expands here. If you do get a really good result, like these two characters are properly looking at each other and they're maybe even interacting, then it gets nuts. Then we get a whole new level of interactions. So we'll just let these load here and we'll kind of see what we get. More often than not, the zoom will add a level of environment that is just like super fun to explore. So I'll open this one first while the other one's loading. And we'll take a closer look here. So you can see that we have a couple mergers right off the bat where suddenly it's like this kind of effeminate and it's just more generic. But if I then kind of bring in Like, look at that. Just the way that it does the paneling. We start to lose a lot of continuity, but look at that. Like, that's just awesome. Like, we're kind of like standing on this like tree thing together, and and I am not, I can guarantee you I'm not taller than Ancient. Probably. But it is certainly true that we can make these extremely dynamic layouts, like these comic layouts. And maybe because of the image I started with, where it's all these tiny panels, it just didn't really give me the effect I was looking for. But it lets us merge these together without starting to get lost, May not be the best example right off the bat, but I definitely am enjoying the results here. Um, so okay, so you'll see that it's kind of hard for me to do this without zooming in too much, but it we start to get lost. We start to get really heavy in this, but I feel like this is fun. This is a fun like holding the sword and all that. I didn't prompt any of this stuff. This is completely referential, as in like I'm not giving it any direction of what I want here. But man, does it make some really interesting layouts and really interesting compositions.
Seriously
So
cool.
right. And
The
I
skirt on that one.
yeah. Yeah, I love all these. They look great, and they let us be able to immediately see what like the potential of expanding canvases are. But it does mean that we lose a lot of character continuity. It's just simply like we have to find a balance between those two. And it could very well be the fact that I'm expanding way too tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upres this top right one. And the reason why is because one, it's real cute, but also, and this is the bigger reason, it doesn't have black bars all over it. I made the mistake of upresing one that had these strong black bars, and since I have the aspect ratio, I could have hit make square if it wasn't square earlier. But now that's real cute. I think we're going to go with that one. So I'm going to do a variation strong. We'll put ancient in there. And again, that's just putting URLs at the beginning of the prompt. And I'll do the same thing with subtle just so we can see what we get. If you do not do image injection, if you're just 100% happy with the results, like you just love this character, right? And you want to see more comic of that character, just hit the custom zoom and you'll be able to expand this specific. This gives us a lot of reference information actually right off the bat. So totally possible. But for the sake of showing the comic panels, though, I want to see if we can get something usable out of the subtle here. And I think we did. Sometimes you get just chaos. Like this is nonsense in the bottom right here, right? Sometimes you get usable, individual assets. But ideally, you want to find something that's like almost there. And I think this one's great. This one's great right here. We'll go ahead and upres that one. And because it has the white bars all around it, oh, sorry, not white bars, but because it's on a white like canvas, we really don't have to worry about we really don't have to worry about this expanding this and ending up with a bunch of black elements in the frame.
I'm a little
So
worried
now
about his face on the bottom right.
which one? Oh yeah, no, that's oh god. It's like it's like you threw a child at his face and it's just like merging together. It's yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so now that we have this one here, I'm gonna do one where we don't actually do the injection first. I'm just gonna do the expansion. And we can we actually, you know what? I'm gonna do a pan left and just leave it as is and see what we get out of that. And now, granted, there's URLs in there. It's gonna try to reference that when we pan as well. So this is unlike what I did earlier, where I removed all the information in order to try to get Victor to be standalone and a different character. It clearly got confused with some of like the female elements that are there. I didn't write him. I didn't write any of the pronouns that I normally write. And we'll just kind of see what we get by panning left here. But I'm also going to now pan left, remove all the context here, except for comic panels or whatever. Let's just leave the word comic panels in there. And then
Not even
I
sure
am
that it's
going
strong to abandon pronouns when it comes to chaos.
right. You could be whatever the hell you want to be, man.
So
But
it
what
is.
I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write Victor in there just to see what we get with that because I want to show you guys what the character mergers look like too. Um, so out of these ones here, we have a couple extra poses. That's very cute. I really like some of these. Um, but let's see how the one with with Victor being right next to Ancient's gonna come out here. So we'll just give that a second. Oh, please.
From Dr. Y. Thanks, Victor. Yes, I'm also very interested in prompting camera angles as well, such as a low angle or a high 3/4 camera angle. And then he also mentioned fetching water and something else, but I cut it off on my copy and paste.
Yeah,
I think he was just giving
when
examples.
yeah. So like if you're gonna be doing like prompting camera angles and stuff, at least the way that I tend to see it, because if you inject camera angles into comic panels, you may get what you want, but at least in my experience, there's a lot of um how can I say? It's there's a bit of like a muddling of like what is the frame and what is the what is the comic, you know? So what I tend to do is I tend to like prompt each panel as like a completely separate prompt. And all the new panning and zoom features is relatively new for me in terms of using it in my comics, but I've been having some great results out of that. Um, the first episode was entirely just made with prompting, oh, searching with power and all sorts of other like intense comic stuff. Um, so yes, okay. Yeah, we got some cuteness. Yeah, we got some cuteness going on here. The you can notice that, and I'll bring open the tablet here so you guys can see a little closer. Uh, you can see that I now have a neck bracer, which is in line with the character that I was next to. But we also have very similar kind of cheeks and chin lines and stuff, and I'm a bit more effeminate because of the cat boy. But that to me is a lot more like Victor if it wasn't for the cat ears. Just little things like that. It's very cute. But let's get one where they're kind of looking at each other a bit here. So I think this one, I think the top right one makes the most sense. There's some weird double arm stuff going on here, but this is an example of where I go, that doesn't matter. I can just block this out. The fact that I have like, a waist, like a breast line too, I can easily Photoshop that out. But let's go
Maybe
ahead
Midjourney will
and
be able to fix someday too.
yeah, right. Yeah. And so I'm excited to kind of see what we can do with in painting as we start to like build up a real like story here. But I mostly wanted to go over what happens when we start to see all these sort of um, different aspect ratios being changed. So instead of 1 to 3, I'm going to do 1 to 2. So it'll be twice as tall as it is wide. Oh, let me switch back over to here. So again, AR 1, 2, and then zoom of 1. And then just for funsies, I'll also go ahead and zoom out as well. But let's see what we get out of these zooms here. Because most likely it's just gonna be like a smattering of the two characters. Because I started so close, and just in general, it's like we're not really there yet when it comes to creating completely. I heard David describe them as anchors before, where we have like character anchors. But man, did we get some cute stuff out of this. So I'll go ahead and open both of these. Not only did we get like a couple different reactions and little stars and little hearts and like just a bunch of cuteness, right? We also got a couple of different like yeah, mergers and stuff, but I mostly wanted to show that as you keep going, as you keep expanding here, it will try to like keep some element of continuity. Like, look, Victor and Ancient have this like lapel thing going on here, and now we both have them on. You know what I mean? Like we're all mixed together.
Victor's still crabby looking.
Yeah, yep, and he's got a little
Most
bit of
of
my
them.
mood. Yep. And so what I like about this though is yeah, I mean we have grumpy Victor, like a little frumpiness as well all through here. It's fun to be able to see this kind of exploration right? But look at this. It could easily have been used in a panel to. Oops, sorry. Could have easily been used in a panel to describe like a disagreement or a frustration or whatever. And I could
Yeah.
easily put a lollipop at the end of this stick and make it this joke or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of potential that can come out of stuff like this, but we are still getting a lot of you know like of the same character, basically merging together, right? So we can try to remedy that a little bit at least. And then we'll get into the avant-garde fantasy stuff, as well as build a character sheet from scratch for that. So let's go ahead and try to first expand this over to the left here. And then I'm just going to give an environment instead. So we're just going to do like a beach party. Niji 5. In fact, you know what? I'm not even going to use Niji. I'm just gonna uh let's do, instead of party, because that might generate a bunch of extra people, beach, let's just do sunny day at the beach and see what we get out of that.
Black umbrella or nothing.
Yeah, nothing there. There is actually a fun one that I got from let me see if I can quickly pull that up here. I one of the results I got was actually of Ancient sitting in the lawn chair where he has an umbrella on, and it's so perfectly profile, like flat, um it was great. It was great. But I did want to kind of show what we got
Parasol.
here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was wearing, and it was great because the mood is all like dreary and dark and foggy, like a lot of my works are, and yeah,
Too
pretty
funny.
fun to see that. All right, so let's go ahead and open this up here. Um, and I'll just kind of slide over and we see what we expanded into, what sort of vibe we're going. I think we're gonna go with the one with the puppy, just because it's the least chaotic out of the group. Um, yeah, there's a lot of chaos in there, but at the very
Giant cats
least,
in the water.
yeah, giant cats in the water. No one wants to go to that on the beach. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of, and again, I'm shooting at the hip, guys. I'm mostly doing this to show you all what happens when you do them, because I'm in turbo mode and I can quickly kind of like save you some time of like hoping that there's gonna be like a perfect. But let's do this. Let's have Victor on a like a beach chair or like a lawn chair. Maybe yeah, I'll just say lawn chair. Why not? Lawn chair, sunbathing, reflector, and let's just see what we get out of that here. I can't spell reflector. There we go. What I'm hoping for is that it's just like like feet out lounging and 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 just like sun blaring back at Victor's face sitting on the beach with the puppy. And then what we could do is we could then bring in these other panels and essentially start making this more dynamic story here. It's super important that if you're going, the reason why I think emptiness tends to not work as well for what we're doing is we're not really giving it a lot of reference image by doing that. But what we're doing here, however, is suddenly we are. We have let me actually open this in the tablet here. So not only do we have like passing by, and that's not really on model to Victor, the chin's not sharp enough and stuff, but you do have some pretty fun little results here. I was almost holding the reflector in that one. It would have been great if I was if we can fix that in Photoshop beta or in any other program really. But I think I'm gonna go with the bottom left because it's just like the most in position or whatever. You could say that I'm yelling at the puppy here, so that's funny. Um,
Yes.
like uh that's cute. But the foot's kind of wonky. Yeah, there's a little bit of some wonky, and my hands inside of the chair here. All these things we can fix. But what I'm gonna do is let's upres that third one here. And in order to complete the frame, I could either hit zoom out. I'll jump over here. I could either hit zoom out or a custom zoom or whatever, but I'm just going to do one more pan and not change anything because my intention here is simply to try to finish this scene, like finish the left panel here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a custom zoom and see if we can get this to start making more dynamic panels. Yeah, I mean, it is. See, look at that. Like we're already starting to complete this scene. Yeah, and I'm doing it this way because folks had trouble seeing it before. So yeah, in terms of anatomy, it's definitely the top left one. Probably makes the most sense. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the top left one here.
His feet.
Okay.
I like that we can see
Yeah.
his feet in this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can finally see my
It's
tootsies, my
unusual.
tiny
It's like
little
you don't
tootsies.
expect it. That's the only reason, though, just so you know. The only reason why I want to see his feet.
There you go. That's the only reason. Not to add it to this foot. No. There should be a website. This foot does exist. That's what should be.
This foot does exist.
I know that there's.
Like
I know
that.
there's Wiki Feet. It's called Wiki Feet. I know that there's one, and it's
Like,
uncomfortable, but it is true.
Stephen Colbert was all happy when he got on there.
So I'm gonna do a custom zoom here, and I'm gonna try to describe what I want to happen in this comic. Okay. Let's just say I'm gonna throw a puppy at Ancient here, and say like picking up and throwing the puppy. And I have no idea what's gonna happen here. But I'm just kind of winging it here. Okay, all right. I think we're actually gonna get this story, at least a little bit, because I am certainly picking up a dog from a basket in one of these. So let's take a closer look at these here. Uh, definitely doing that on the bottom right here. It's just look, there's a puppy in a basket, and it looks like I'm leaning down to pick him up. The legs are all broken and wonky. There's a lot going on here that doesn't make sense, but man, does it give me all sorts of like fun ideas for like how I would like composite this. So like for example, let's go ahead and I really like the bottom right one because it has like different poses, different actions and stuff. We can now
Is that
come
the
into
handsome
here.
Squidward Victor up top?
It looks like it. It looks like it. But I'm gonna go ahead and now that we have like a bunch of this stuff here, I'm actually gonna do a variation strong and a subtle variation strong and subtle on these two here. And what's gonna happen is with the strong, it's gonna merge everything and look at the wording a lot more intently. But with the subtle, however, um, okay, hold on a second, y'all, because this is really where we start to get into nutso land here. Um, it fixes it if you do variation subtle. I am clearly picking like it's chibi version of me, yes, but I am picking up something that I could easily put the dog inside of my hand here now. And and like sometimes there's a lot more character clean out, like and a lot more cleaner results that we're getting out of the compositions. I don't know why I'm holding a basket of fruit in so many of these, but it is fascinating just how good variation subtle is at giving you something of an adjacent result to whatever your text prompt is. Okay, so I could just re-roll that and see what we get. But as for variation strong, however, we get a lot more merger between the two characters. Suddenly, Victor is this chibi Catboy inspired version of him that doesn't look like him at all, really. And we lost all of our comic panels because again, we're doing variation strong, and it's looking at all changing the entire image. And this is actually kind of interesting because this shows you one of my problems that I have with repeat mode, or sorry, reroll. I'll come into here. This here should have been just a second attempt at trying to make these comic panels, because this is technically a reroll of variation subtle, but it's not. You notice that it completely got rid of all of our panels and stuff. The way to fix that is to come back up to this here and hit variation subtle on the actual button. And that way you you'll always be able to double back to the prompt that you had before and just keep clicking those buttons that you, because you can hit these as many times as you want. The only one that has limits is the up res button. It'll yell at you if you hit that twice. But you'll notice now, boom, we have our comic panels again here. So I can eventually end up with something that might be usable. But this really isn't, this is where we start to kind of hint at what sort of storytelling we can do. But the idea of trying to keep two different characters the same or continuous through this, that won't happen until there's a Midjourney update for the anchors, particularly. I don't know when that's coming. I hope soon, because it might let us do some pretty cool stuff.
Speaking about storytelling for the next update, I'm so excited.
Right. I'm excited for that. That's gonna be sick. And I know that there's a couple folks that are like, that I don't think fully recognize just how impactful that's gonna be when we start to get into like, it's, I brought it up last time, but decentralized storytelling just means that we don't have to rely on corporations to deliver our media, and we could start making our own media for our friends and family, and that just sounds super fun for me, even if it's like kind
So
of all
important
fan.
too.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Hollywood writer strike doesn't realize just how much of like a window that they're giving people right now, as far as like people going in and having their ability to make things and like produce them beautifully, and then insert it into uh, public media, and people are just going to stop trying to watch if they stop trying to create. That's my prediction anyway. I feel like know that
Well,
they're
I
doing it because they think it's the right thing for them, but I don't think that. I think they're giving people a chance to kind of wedge their way in.
well, I mean, the last writer strike was a wonderful innovation and discovery of YouTube for so many of the entertainment people. The You wouldn't have Dr. Horrible sing along blog if it wasn't for the writer strike in 2008. Um,
That Neil
you
Patrick
wouldn't have.
Harris, right?
Yes, that is Neil Patrick Harris. Yes, and it's great. The thing about the writer strikes is that they're still creative people. They want to express themselves, and they'll find any damn way to do it. Like it's a different world than it was in 2008. It was I would say that I was, well, it's like 2007, 2008. The strikes were a bit more convoluted than a solid period, but um, the uh, the one thing that kind of came out of that though was that a lot of people going, oh, wait a minute, I can use this platform as a way to reach people, like real numbers of people, not just like
Even
my
famous
friends and
people, yeah.
family. Yeah, yeah. Well, that was such a weird time to be on the internet, because I could just PM like a celebrity and they might actually respond. You know what I mean? Like especially like 2004 or so, 2005, when MySpace was slowly like dying out and stuff. That was such a fascinating time because you could just PM some dude and, oh yeah, please everyone keep clicking the buttons and see what you get out of them. I'm more than happy with you guys experimenting with some of this stuff, especially with the custom zoom
So
buttons.
cool.
But
I'm kind of
that's what we're gonna get into with the next thing.
I was just gonna say, like, oh, I just feel like it was this is a perfect time for people to be learning, and it just kind of lines up. I feel like the stars are lining up. There's got to be something along those lines, but then I lost track. So
Well, I mean, the thing I guess I try to emphasize to people is that, like, creative people will explore new tools. They will, even if it is something that's like controversial or contentious and stuff. There was a period when 3D was controversial. There was a period when Photoshop was controversial. I was born the same year
you actually
Photoshop was born. So, if you want to age
yep,
me that way, you can.
reminded me of my quickly derailed thought, which is going to be fast. And it was just that times like these do separate people that are truly creative from people who are just out there trying to maintain their financial situation. You know what I mean? They
Oh
they will
yeah.
come out. They will be heard. They will make their stuff, and they're going to have people see it. They're going to find a way, especially if they already have a platform.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing really is the numbers. This is something I tried to communicate to another artist. I'm not gonna name them. I don't like the idea of even if I'm praising them, understand that like if it's coming from me, that could be seen as an endorsement of AI stuff, and I don't necessarily want to put my voice in their mouth, you know? So like I try not to mention names, but one of the artists that I was kind of messing around with some stuff. I mostly was looking at how um what their numbers were, like what sort of like viewership they had, because I was used to the idea of like, okay, a television show tends to net between 300,000 800,000 people depending on the time slot or whatever. The Super Bowl, however, has the 200 million viewers or something like that. This one comic artist accrued across over the whole year. Now keep in mind the Super Bowl is an annual event, right? They accrued 2.5 times the viewership of the Super Bowl. Are they paid that number? No, not at all. Are they should be, in my opinion, they should be paid the same as 2.5 times a Super Bowl commercial for everything they've done across the entire year of making comics and stories and stuff. But no, that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where everything is just free, and it's really tough for creative people to be like, but how do you make money doing this? So I hope something changes about that. If YouTube was the big change in 2008, I hope that there's like this kind of exploration of independent or decentralization is the result of, as soon as the scripts start turning awful, that's when you'll notice. I think the biggest impact socially was the show Heroes, when that show uh hired scab writers in order to come in and like and finish the show. It just went
The
downhill
drama,
super
right?
fast. Yeah, it was a drama. It was a superhero
It was
drama.
like a super, yeah, okay, gotcha. I remember that barely, and I think that's why, because I remember really liking it in the beginning,
Right, right.
and I just completely forgot that it existed, like
Yeah,
until
and
you
it,
just
it,
mentioned it.
yeah, and it's one of the things is they know they had a turd in their hand. Like that's the thing. They knew that it was bad after they cut everything together and put it up. So they killed all the advertising for it, And that advertising is essential for getting the word out there in the society we live in today. But guess what? We don't need that anymore. You can literally just go on to a couple different influencers and they have more power than some of the studio networks do. You know what I mean? In terms of influence. So it's a different world that we live in now compared to 2008. So I really hope that we see some really dramatic changes because of this. Yeah, I don't think the strike's going to end for quite a while because they're hardlining on AI stuff, and it's going to make it really tough to get out of that. You can't really give, you know, it's like Scrooge McDuck giving away all of his gold in the vault. You know what I mean? Like you're asking
Yeah.
them to do that. There's so much potential for the studios to make money that they're like, no.
I hope somehow it gets like regulated where fans can make art that finishes off the series that don't make it back. That'd
Yeah.
be cool.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we talk about with AI video, right? Where we can kind of be like, nah, that ending sucked. I want to make a better Game of Thrones ending. Like just whatever it ends up being, I think people are going to start doing that, and it's gonna be kind of I think it's definitely jarring for people. Like here's the thing. I have a lot of voice
Hat or
acting
something.
friends. Yeah, right. Well, I have a lot of voice acting friends, okay? And they are going to be the most hit by AI. More so than traditional artists, more so than screen actors, certainly more so than screen actors. It'll be voice actors. It'll be people who are trained at speaking in a specific character voice that they like understand. There is something that like the voice actor for Porky Pig, he he had what he called a trademark voice, as in like he could speak it. He had a specific
Yeah.
rhythm, and it was so complicated that other voice actors couldn't copy it, so they had to hire him, and that's why he made so much freaking money. Was because he formulaically designed a voice that you cannot replicate easily. and now AI can just beep beep boop, and then you have Porky Pig. You know what I mean? Like I get it why voice actors are the ones that feel the most unheard right now, ironically.
do some voice acting of my own, and like I made a little animation this weekend because I was testing out some things, and I ended up like finishing it in TikTok because it was just the easiest way to do it, like from my phone, because I do
Mhm.
things the way poor people do things, and one of the things was that I could do a voice over like a young girl's voice. And I was
Mhm.
so deflated by the fact that I wasn't even necessary to do voice acting in it. That like when it came time to do my part, I just became like this deep voiced weirdo for my own. Like I was just like, hello. Now I'm doing a different voice. You know what I mean? But I wasn't really doing a voice at all. It was kind of really dumb. But and I was also watching this thing when you speak of like people that have their own designer voice. Like they had the and Billy from Billy and Mandy. Um, I guess they're the same person, but like it's been so long, I think, for him to do either of those voices that he was just mixing them up. Like you go from Zim to Billy and Billy and Zim and then back, and sometimes you go, I'm Zim, and like it was. It's getting harder for them. They're not doing anything right now. You know what I mean? They got to keep those pipes active. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people don't know that one of the actors from Reno 911 is also the voice of Rocky from Rocco's Modern Life. I mean, sorry, Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life. And it's one of, like, I'll pull him up really quick here. This actor right here is amazing. He does such great work, but he's actually more known outside of Reno 911. He is much more known as the voice actor of all these characters here. And the list is massive. I mean, it as most voice actors, they have tons of characters that they have to like train their voice back to those characters if they get hired on, which is a lot of time. Like it takes a lot of time to really hone in that specific character.
Because you
But
don't even know that you love that guy until you see the voices that they did. You know what I mean?
right, I can almost guarantee you that if you watch cartoons, you recognize at least two or three of these characters. His work is prolific, but I do think that they are the most likely to be that need the strongest protections. If you take a job as a voice actor, I don't want you to just listen to me for an hour speak, and then suddenly you own my entire career. Like I get that complaint, I get that frustration from creative folks, especially voice actors. Yeah, I'm so happy you guys invited me up here, but I also feel like I'm like one of those guys who are like, I found something and it works and I have fun with it, but also like I'm completely shooting at the hip when it comes to most of the projects that we want to get done here. So we're gonna start to get into that.
That
I do
curriculum
want
or
to.
not, I think you're always giving a lot of good knowledge. You know.
Well, I mean, I have basically my curriculum for the day was referential comics, where we're just kind of seeking through and seeing what we get. Directional comics, where we're actually telling it what we want the next panels to be, which is mostly with the pan features. But let's go ahead and start actually opening the black box here, and I'll just kind of pull that up here real quick. The black box is a place where you can submit characters for my streams. I'll mostly focus on Midjourney for those. I probably won't be opening it on Twitch just because I don't want people to like lose it or whatever. And I'll record everything for YouTube too, so you can check that out. But the idea here is that there's a questionnaire inside of there, and that questionnaire lets you be able to tell me what your character's kind of like motivations are and all that, and it's told in a fun, interactive way. So check that out, and put your characters in there. We might use them. My image manipulator of choice is Photoshop Beta. You're welcome to use whatever you like to kind of keep up here, but I will say that I will be using generative fill every once in a while to kind of like patch together any sort of problems we got or anything like that. It is something that on my Twitch streams I'll get more into Photoshop tutorials and stuff. I have a lot of fun teaching folks how to do this, which is partly why, like, at least for the creative folks that I try to show this to, why it can be really hard, because like everything I show them can be upsetting to them, right? And I'm like, no, 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 there's like all sorts of cool things you can do with it, like as a creative, and not use any of the generative stuff at the end of the day. If you don't feel like it's right, if you don't feel like it's your art in any way, shape, or form, then just don't use it. But I recommend at least exploring it to better understand, like, how it's a different medium. It's not. It may look like every medium, but it is in of itself a different medium. So inside of Photoshop, I'm actually going to first just open up our. Oh yeah. By the way, I kind of spoiled a little joke that I was going to do a little later, but inside of I had to include the bouncing DVD for the screen here because it's just too funny for me. But all right, I'll stop distracting myself here.